Thank you all very much for joining today's session. So today will be the final session of this theme that we have taken, which I felt was a very essential theme as to understanding what exactly is our practice and trying to understand this dynamics between this between our value system and the conditioning that we are carrying into the realm of bhakti, which is very important uh, for various reasons. I could give many reasons, but one very obvious reason is, it gives little hope as to what, are we, because many times we may think I'm not even practicing pure devotional service like that. So anyways, so I'm not going to, as I mentioned, I really hope and trust that every single devotee who is attending this session has already attended the first 3 sessions. So I am not going to do a recap of this, at least the initial section that we did, which is the foundation section. We tried to understand if we are practicing pure devotional service or not. And based on this, this whole thing about Shraddha Swabhav dynamics, we discussed about these desires born out of value system, that is Abhilasha, and desires born out of conditioning, which is Anarthas. And Srila Rupa Goswami says, Shuddha Bhakti or Uttama Bhakti is Anya Abhilashita Shunyam. He does not say that it is Anya Anartha Shunyam. Rather, Anartha Nivritti is very much one of the stages of Shuddha Bhakti, Uttama Bhakti. Uttama Bhakti has 9 stages, starting with Shraddha, and Anartha Nivritti is one of those stages. So certainly, we need to understand what is an Anartha and what is an Abhilasha, so that just because we may have some anarthas, we should not think that, oh, I am not qualified for practicing pure devotional service. I should maybe practice mixed devotional service or something like that. So for that purpose, we did discuss this. And then we discussed on this point about continuity also. How, as sadhakas, how do we understand continuity? Because one of the aspects of the definition of pure devotional service is anushilanam, where the engagement is in where the engagement is continuous in the practice of devotional service. So we may say that, oh, my engagement is not continuous. So we understand that continuity should be understood to be continuity of one's faith, even though there may not be continuity of actions due to the interference of our swabhava, like that. So we did discuss this also. And then we discussed that how firefighting is essentially an aspect of anishtita bhajana kriya or bhajana kriya till one reaches the stage of nishta. So, and how the nature of this bhajana, anishtita bhajana kriya, how the nature of this firefighting keeps changing from stage to stage. We discussed this, the 6 stages: Utsahamayi, Ganatarala, Vyuda Vikalpa, Vishaya Sangara, Niyamakshaman, Tarangarangini. So we discussed this, and then, yeah. And after discussing this, we also discussed that how Nishta, the stage of Nishta, is characterized by absence of these 5 obstacles. So before Nishta, these 5 obstacles will be there, because of which there will not be continuity of actions. But nevertheless, even though there may not be continuity of actions, certainly there is the faith is continuously engaged in practicing pure devotional service. So this is what we saw. Then we saw every concept has to have a shastric backing. So we started seeing some shastric proofs for this. We first started from Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, Sadrisham cheshtate swasyaha prakritir jnanavanapi prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishyati. So he discusses this power of swabhava, how in the absence of a value system, or even in the presence of a value system, someone who has very deep rooted conditionings, it may be very difficult for him to follow the injunctions of the scriptures. And in doing that, exercising his free will. Okay. So, Indriyasya indriyasyarte ragadvesho vyavastitau tayor navashamagachetau hyasya paripantino. Krishna says, yes, the swabhava is very powerful, O Arjuna, but you don't necessarily have to be a puppet. Okay. The puppeteer Maya Devi will keep pulling her strings, but you don't necessarily have to respond to the pull of those strings. You have free will also, where you can choose to act according to the injunctions of the scriptures. So we tried to understand in this context. Yesterday we tried to understand the definition of free will according to the Shastras is that if you have a Shastric value system and you act according to it, then you are exercising your free will. But if you don't know of a Shastric value system at all, then you are not aware of your free will. That is what is the absolute materialistic people. But if you are a sadhaka, you may sometimes be unable to exercise your free will. There may be inability to exercise your free will when the force of the puppeteer is very strong. You may not be able to pull yourself away from the pull of the puppeteer. You may not say, no, I am not going to respond to you. I am going to do according to my free will. So many times that strength may not be there, sufficient strength. So for a sadhaka, there may be inability to exercise the free will sometimes and ability to exercise the free will at other times. Whereas a materialistic person is not aware of his free will, and a perfected devotee is always perfectly exercising his or her free will. So in this way, we understood the meaning of the word free will, and in that way, we understood the this dynamics between the Shraddha and Swabhava. So we saw in this very beautiful footnote, Srila Bhanuswami Maharaj writes, Vasanas, samskaras, or the impressions are means by which experiences of previous lives stay with the jiva life after life. Under certain conditions, the impressions get activated. And when the impressions get activated, it creates memory of previous likes or previous dislikes. So when there is a memory of previous like, immediately desire to enjoy that appears. And when the desire to enjoy that thing comes, then the jiva is pushed to act according to that desire. So even though vasanas or impressions are very powerful to instigate the jiva to action, they do not make the jiva powerless to make his choices. Which means there are two stimuli. One is the stimulus of the material vasanas, which push the jiva to act according to the platform of likes and dislikes, raga and dvesha. And then there is the stimulus of the shastras, which push the jiva to act on the platform of anukul pratikul. So there is this constant tug of war between the actions on the platform of anukul pratikul and raga dvesha. That is the classic tug of war between the shraddha and swabhava. So he says free will of the jiva exists along with his previous experience of vasanas, which means if one is responding to one's vasanas, it is not exercising the free will. Okay. Free will means to choose to act according to the injunctions of the Shastras. That is free will. And this free will enables the jiva to the advice of the scripture over his material desire. Okay. Like that. And then we saw Arjuna says, Atakena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha anichanapi varshneya baladivanyojitaha. This verse also we saw that where Arjuna says, Krishna, I don't want to engage in sinful acts, but something is pushing me. What is pushing me? So that push is, Krishna says later, Kamayesha Krodayesha Rajoguna Samudbhavan Mahashano Mahapapma Vidyena Mihavairinam. It is lust only, Arjuna, and that lust is created due to Rajoguni Vasanas, Rajoguna Samudbhavan. Right. So, so that lust is Vasanas. So, Vasanas is Swabhava. But then he says, Anichan, I don't have a desire. That lack of desire, that anicca is coming from his value system. But the force is the force of the Swabhava. We understood this yesterday. And then Krishna also says in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, in the Chatushloki, Tesham satatayuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhiyogam tammena mamupayandite. He says that to those people who constantly desire to be with me and worship me with great love, Krishna says, I give them intelligence by which they attain my direct association. So they constantly desire to be with Krishna and they worship Krishna with great love. But in the very next verse, Krishna says, Tesham eva anukampartam aham agyanajam tamaha anashayami atma bhavasto jnana deepena bhaswata. So he says, to show favor to them, I destroy the darkness born out of ignorance within their heart with the shining lamplight of knowledge. So we were discussing, oh, what is this? On one hand, you say that they are Satata Yuktanam, they desire constant association with the Supreme Lord, and Bhajatam Priti Purvakam, they worship the Supreme Lord with great love and affection. But on the other hand, they do have darkness born out of ignorance within their heart. And then Baldev Devbhushan says that, so for those who cannot maintain their lives without me, for my unalloyed devotees alone, I destroy the darkness in the form of desires for objects other than myself. So we were discussing yesterday, how can an unalloyed devotee have desire for objects other than Krishna? This question arises, right? So what is unalloyed is his Shraddha. There is no Abhilasha for anything else other than the desire to please Krishna. But there are anarthas which have desires for things other than Krishna. So the desires for things other than Krishna are there in the form of anarthas, which Krishna promises to destroy. But the Shraddha itself is unalloyed. So there can be a person with unalloyed Shraddha, but completely contaminated Swabhava. Those are the sadhakas, especially those sadhakas who are before the stage of Nishtha. It is very strongly we have. And then we saw this very classic verse of Apichet Suduracharo Bhajate Ma Mananyabhak Sadureva Samantavya Samyak Vyavasito Hisaha. On one hand, Krishna says he is Sudurachari, very, very sinful. But on the other hand, he says he is Ananyabhak. Ananyabhak means he has no other desire other than the desire to please Krishna. And Samyak Vyavasitaha, he is completely fixed in Krishna. So how can someone who has no other desire other than the desire to please Krishna and who is completely fixed in Krishna, how can he be very sinful? So where is that sinful desire coming from? So we understood this. It is coming from the Swabhava. And the desire to please Krishna is coming from Shraddha. We saw this, right? So he is addicted, he may be addicted to violence, addicted to thievery, addicted to adultery. So here this addiction is unwilling participation due to the force of Swabhava. Whereas the word Ananya Bhag indicates that his deep cherished goal is to serve Krishna. But his addiction to violence, thievery, and adultery is his unwilling participation due to the force of Swabhava. Right. So, and then we saw this beautiful purport yesterday. I don't want to go over it again. It's a long purport. He says, he is completely convinced. Okay. He's completely convinced. So he says, he makes a splendid resolution. He says, let me go to hell. I will go to hell for my sinful actions, which are hard to give up. But I will not give up dedicated worship of Krishna. Like that, he takes a vow. And then Srila Prabhupada also talks about in his purport about this person having a conditioned nature and a constitutional nature. Sometimes the conditioned nature may parallel with the constitutional nature, and sometimes the conditioned nature may be opposed to the constitutional nature. Like that, Prabhupada writes. So, this is where we ended our discussion yesterday. Let us cover a few more proofs. Let us complete the Bhagavad Gita proofs, and then I will pause for a while for some questions or discussion points. Today, as I mentioned yesterday, please be ready. I will go a little bit over time because I don't want to take one more session. So today I will go a little bit over time. I apologize for that beforehand. So please be ready for staying little bit longer. Okay, so Krishna says, the next verse after Apichet Suduracharo is Shipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat shantim nigacchati kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. So he says that, okay, just give me a second. Okay. So Krishna says, Shipram bhavati dharmatma. Very quickly he becomes a righteous person. Okay. So the Sudurachari whom he mentioned in the previous verse, Krishna says, very quickly he will become a righteous person. Shashvat Shantim Nigachati. And he becomes completely devoid of contamination. Whatever contamination is there, he will be devoid of it because of his practice of bhakti. O Kaunteya, O son of Kunti, Pratijanihi, you declare, Name Bhakta Pranashyati, that my devotee shall never perish. You go and declare that if someone has taken up to my devotional service, whatever may be the degree of his conditioning, if he is committed to practicing pure devotional service, Jnana Karmadi Anavrita Bhakti, and Anyabhilashita Shunya Jnana Karmadi Anavrita Bhakti, then I take responsibility for cleansing his heart. You go and loudly proclaim that my devotee shall never perish. Like that, he says. So, so here, some the Purva Paksha, the opponent, he may offer this argument to Krishna because he says, Sadhureva samantavya samyak vyavasito hi saha apichet suduracharo bhajate. Even though he may be very sinful, I accept him as a sadhu. But those opposing this position of Krishna, they ask Krishna, Krishna, how can you accept the worship of such a sinful person? How can you eat the food and drink offered by a heart contaminated with lust and anger? This is the question that the opponent asks Krishna. Krishna, how will you accept the worship of such a sinful person? Are you going to eat the food and drink offered by a heart which is contaminated with lust and anger? So now my question to you is, how many of you have read Srila Prabhupada's Leelamrit? And you are fairly knowledgeable of Srila Prabhupada's life. Can you please raise your hands? How many of you have read Srila Prabhupada's Leelamrit? Only 2, 3. And I'm sure there must be many who must have read Srila Prabhupada's Leelamrit, right? Okay, thank you. At least those who have read. My question to you is, when Srila Prabhupada was staying in New York in the initial days, whom was he staying with? Anyone knows? Please become active on your chat box. When Srila Prabhupada was staying in New York, in the early days, whom was he staying with? Okay, David, yes, Sally. Oh, Sally was in Pennsylvania, Butler, Pennsylvania, Sally Agarwal. But before that, if you remember, no, even before staying with hippies, he was staying with, if you remember, he was staying with a yoga teacher, right? Dr. Mishra's, he was staying with Dr. Mishra. He was a yoga guru. He was a yoga guru. But if you remember, did Prabhupada cook for him or did Prabhupada accept the food cooked by him? Anyone remembers? Prabhupada cooked for him, right? He did not accept the food cooked by him. But then, over a period of time, very quickly, Prabhupada started getting disciples. They were not yet disciples, they were just willing to follow Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, he used to cook for Mishraji, Dr. Mishra. But when Srila Prabhupada got his disciples, then not even disciples, his followers, in the initial days, very initial days, Prabhupada cooked for them, but very quickly they started cooking. Did Prabhupada accept their food or not? He accepted, right? Now, my question to you is, why did Prabhupada not accept the cooking of Mishraji? Why did he accept the food cooked by his disciples, even though his disciples were literally transitioning from being hippies to actually uh, to devotees. They had not even become complete devotees. They still had some hippie habits. How come Prabhupada accepted food cooked by them, and why he was unwilling to accept uh, food cooked by Dr. Mishra? Yeah, so that is the point. That is exactly the point here. So because Dr. Mishra's Shraddha was not pure and it was not towards Krishna, even though Dr. Mishra's Swabhava was very clean. He was fairly, he was certainly did not have all these kinds of bad habits that the hippies had, drugs and unrestricted sexual behavior and all these kinds of baggage that they were carrying. Dr. Mishra was a fairly straight person. He had come from India. He was a trained yogi. Uh, he had learned yoga in the Himalayas and all that. So he was a very fairly straight person with very hardly any kind of bad habits. But still, Prabhupada would not accept food cooked by him. But Prabhupada was willing to accept food cooked by these uh, devotees who were just transitioning from being hippies, right? So, why? Because that is the point. So because Krishna sees that Shraddha, he does not see that Swabhava. So that is the point. So here the same question is asked by a person, Apurva Paksha. How can you accept, will you eat the food and drink offered by a heart which is contaminated with lust and anger? Right? So Krishna says, Very quickly he becomes righteous. Krishna says, very quickly he becomes righteous. Hmm? Uh, the present is used and not the future to express the fact that having committed sin, by remembering the Lord, he becomes repentant, and thus very quickly he becomes righteous. Hmm? That repentance, the fire of repentance, will destroy the fire of sin. So, because he remembers Krishna, he remembers Srila Prabhupada, that will go away. And so he thinks, oh, how unfortunate I am. There is no one as low as I bringing bad name to the devotees. So he thinks like that. You know, what is it that what am I doing? I should not be doing this. I am such a black spot in the for the devotees, in the community of devotees. So repeatedly he feels complete disgust for those actions. Shashwat Shantim Nigachati. So Nitaram means he completely feels disgust. He does not feel very happy. He is not very happy and proud that he is engaging in these kind of sinful activities. He is not happy. Or, see, I want you to read, please meditate on each of these lines, because these lines are not ordinary lines. Every line is a loaded line. You will understand that every line is much more, it's unbelievably deep, actually. You can't afford to not meditate on even a single line. Every single line is loaded. Okay. See this line, for example. Or the use of the present tense can indicate that in the future he will develop righteousness fully, but even right now it exists in a subtle form. Can someone tell me what is the meaning of this? In future he will develop righteousness fully, but even right now that righteousness exists in a subtle form. What is that righteousness in subtle form that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti is indicating here? Can you please throw some light? Whatever you understand, can you please share your thoughts on this? What is this righteousness in subtle form? Okay. I want everyone to please share your thoughts. Someone says, having faith in the words of the Guru, willingness to serve. Yes, but okay. Desire to serve. Prema, someone says. Yeah, someone says faith. Yes. Actually, yeah, his Shraddha. He has Shraddha. So that subtle form is actually that Shraddha. So he has that righteousness in Shraddha, which means he knows what I am doing is wrong. I can't do this, but I am helpless. So therefore, Shraddha, so that is righteousness in subtle form is that Shraddha. He knows that it is wrong. And so such a person will develop righteousness fully in future. So here, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says, after taking medicine, even though the destructive effects of fever or poison remains for some time, it is not considered seriously. So if you go to a doctor and you say that I'm having fever, the doctor checks you, puts the thermometer in your mouth, and he says, oh yes, 100. It shows, okay, 102. And then he says, okay, take this paracetamol tablet. The patient asks, okay, if I take this paracetamol tablet, will I get cured? Will my fever go down? Doctor says, absolutely, no doubt about it. Take it. So he takes the tablet right in front of the doctor, and then he says, put the thermometer in my mouth. And he puts, and he again, and it shows 102. Patient asks, you just told me that if I eat the paracetamol, my fever will go down. He said, wait for some time. Over a period of time, it will go down. It's not that as soon as you put the paracetamol in your mouth, immediately the fever will go down. So similarly, Swabhava Shuddhikaran or purification of the Swabhava is a gradual process. It's not an immediate process, right? So Prabhupada gives the example of, if you switch off the fan, okay, when the switch is off, the fan will still keep running for a while. It will still keep running for a while because the inertia of motion will keep it rotating for a while, but gradually it will stop. So similarly, Anartha Nivritti is also like that. So he says, thus, with the entrance of bhakti in his mind, entrance of bhakti in the form of Shraddha, the sinful actions are not taken seriously. Not taken seriously means not that the devotee feels that I don't have to bother about not committing sinful activities. He does not take like that. But the point is, law of karma does not interfere. A law of karma does not take the sinful actions of such a devotee seriously, because the law of karma knows that because he has taken up to the path of devotion, gradually his sinful tendencies will go away and Krishna will take care of his sins. Krishna has told, Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchah. So he says, and the traces of sin, such as lust and anger, should be considered insignificant, like the biting of a toothless snake. So he says, thus he attains complete cessation of lust and anger permanently. This happens at the stage of bhava. In nigachati, ni stands for nitaram, completely. This means that even during the stage of having a tendency to commit sin, he has a pure heart. Can you please explain to me what is the meaning of this statement? What is the meaning of this statement? Please share your thoughts. What is the meaning of this statement? Where he says, even during the stage of having a tendency to commit sin, he has a pure heart. So either he has the tendency to commit sin or he has the pure heart. How can he have even, how can, while having tendency to commit sin, he can have a pure heart? Right? Yeah, everyone is answering. Yeah, you are getting it right. Very good. Huh? Pure faith. Anarthas are just covering his pure heart. True. His Shraddha is pure. His Shraddha is firm. He has pure Shraddha and he regrets and the desires to overcome Anartha in future. Shraddha. He feels helpless right now. True. Very good. Very good. Correct. Thank you very much for answering. Now, Srila Prabhupada commenting on this verse. Srila Prabhupada says, so he says, one who is not a devotee of the Lord has no good qualifications whatsoever. The question remains, then how can a person engaged in abominable activities, either by accident or by intention, be a pure devotee? This question arises, right? This question may justly be raised. You have this doubt? Yes. It's a very fair doubt, Prabhupada says. Yeah. How can a person who is engaged in abominable activities, either by accident or by intention, be a pure devotee? So Prabhupada says this is a very just question. So he says, the miscreants, as stated in the 7th chapter, who never come to the devotional service of the Lord, they have no good qualifications, as is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam. Harava bhaktasya kuto mahatguna manoratena satidavato bhahihi. Like that. Generally, Prabhupada says, generally, a devotee who is engaged in the 9 kinds of devotional activities is engaged in the process of cleansing all material contaminations from the heart. So he is engaged in 9 kinds of devotional activities and he is engaged in the process of cleansing all material contamination from the heart. So the cleansing is not instantaneous. Cleansing on the level of Shraddha is from the beginning, but cleansing on the level of Swabhava is gradual. He puts the Supreme Personality of Godhead within his heart and all sinful contaminations are naturally washed away. continuous thinking of the Supreme Lord makes him pure by nature. So this is this famous verse, Chipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat chantim nigacchati kaunteya pratijanehi name bhakta pranashyati, where Krishna gives this guarantee that don't worry, you don't worry, he will very quickly become righteous. He will very quickly become a dharmatma, like that. Who? The Sudurachari. But the Sudurachari is Bhajate Mamananya Bhak. He worships Krishna. He worships Krishna only and no one else. And he worships Krishna only through Navada Bhakti without mixing it with Jnana Karma and Yoga. And he worships Krishna only to attain Krishna, but not for attaining any material benefit or liberation. Then still, if he may have anarthas within his heart, Krishna says, I will take care of it. You don't worry about it. Okay. So now I will share a very interesting story. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, once he had a very interesting dream. Bhaktivinoda Thakur had a dream. Okay. So in this dream, he was in Yamaloka, hell. He was walking in hell. And in hell, actually, Narada Muni and the Lord Shiva and Yamaraj, these three of them, they were having a conversation with each other. So this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's dream. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was moving and three of them were sitting and they were having some serious discussion. So what was the discussion about? The discussion was about Bhagavad Gita verse number 9.31, that which you are seeing on your screen. Narada Muni asked the other two, Lord Shiva and Yamaraj. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Bhajate Mam Ananya Bhak. The devotee is worshipping him sincerely. But then in the next verse he says, Shipram Bhavati Dharmatma. He becomes a Dharmatma. So if you say he becomes a Dharmatma, but then Krishna in the beginning of 9th chapter says that bhakti is dharma. Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam Pavitram Midamuttamam Pratyaksha Dharmyam. He says bhakti is dharma. Bhagavatam says Savai Pumsam Paro Dharmo. Yato Bhakti Radokshaje Ahaitukiya Pratihataya Atmasu Prasidati. So it is very well known that bhakti is not just dharma, it is Paro Dharma. But here Krishna says that a practitioner of bhakti becomes dharmic, which means practice of bhakti in itself, is it not dharmic? This question Narada Muni asks Lord Shiva and Yamaraj. Very valid question. So both of them were thinking, they could not answer. They said, actually only a Vaishnava can answer this question. So we should look for a Vaishnava to answer this question. Okay. And they were looking around and there they saw Bhaktivinoda Thakur with 12 bright tilaks on his body walking past them. So they ran to Bhaktivinoda Thakur and they say, oh, Thakur, you look like a Vaishnava. We have a deep doubt. So can you please clarify this doubt? How is it that Krishna says, Chipram Bhavati Dharmatma? He says that a devotee who worships him, Ananya Bhak devotee, becomes a Dharmatma. But if he's Ananya Bhak, means he's already a Dharmatma. No? How is it that he says that he becomes a Dharmatma? And Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives a brilliant answer. So he says, no. Let me explain to you the two verses. He says, what does Krishna says? Chetsu duracharo bhajate mam ananyabhak sadhureva samantavya samyak vyavasito hisa. So Krishna says that even if a devotee may have some durachar bad habits, if he is worshipping me, worshipping me alone and worshipping me through Navada Bhakti and not mix it with Jnana, Karma and Yoga, and worshipping me to attain me with no other Abhilasha, then he is a sadhu. One should consider him as a sadhu. Then in the next verse, when he says, Chipram Bhavati Dharmatma, he is talking about that person who chooses not to judge the devotee, who is willing to accept the Durachari devotee as a sadhu. Okay, some conditionings may be there, but he is worshipping Krishna sincerely. So therefore, he must be a sadhu. So one who chooses not to judge a devotee because of his conditioning, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that according to Krishna, he becomes a Dharmatma very quickly. Chipram Bhavati Dharmatma, Shashvat Shantim Nigachite, and very quickly he becomes qualified for attaining liberation. Why? Because he chose not to judge the devotee. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, here when Krishna says Shipram Bhavati Dharmatma, the devotee is already a Dharmatma, but a person who chooses not to judge a devotee, he becomes a Dharmatma because of not judging. Krishna gives him so much, Krishna becomes so pleased with such a person that he makes that person quickly into a Dharmatma, like that. This is one explanation. Of course, the traditional explanation which all our acharyas give is that, so here Dharmatma means the external symptoms of adharma in the form of adultery, thievery, and violence, that is gone. Okay, so that is the meaning of Shipram Bhavati Dharmata. That is a traditional meaning, but this is an additional meaning, and of course, this is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's dream. So in his dream, he gives this explanation to Lord Shiva, Yamaraj, and Narada Muni, like that. So this verse Shipram Bhavati Dharmatma is spoken by Krishna, that if one chooses not to judge my devotees, even though he may see some uh, sort of bad habits in him, but if he chooses to see only his dedicated service to me and chooses to neglect his conditionings, then such a person, Shipram Bhavati Dharmatma, he very quickly becomes a Dharmatma, like that he says. Like that. Well, this is just a side point. But anyway, so these are proofs from Sri Bhagavad Gita. So that we have seen. So now we will see some proofs from Srimad Bhagavatam. But before we get into that, if there are some quick questions that you might want to ask, I request you to please keep your questions very crisp and short, and please don't extend them, because I don't mind. We could have a 5-hour session today, but I don't think others will have that kind of time. So please keep your questions quick and crisp so that we can take more questions. Yes, Mother Gail.
Yes, Prabhu. When we say that Krishna only sees our sincerity or Shraddha, he does not see our Swabhav. But at the same time, he has to see it in order to purify us of it. So it means that he just doesn't value it more than the sincerity, right?
Yeah, he does not see it means not that he neglects your anartha nivritti. Not in that sense. He does not value it. He does not consider that. He does not consider that as a qualification or disqualification for serving him. So he considers only the Shraddha as the qualification to serve him, but he does not consider the Swabhava as a qualification or disqualification to serve him. That's what it means.
Okay, very nice. And also when he says, my devotee will never perish, what does this perish mean?
My devotee will never perish means my devotee will never perish into the whirlpool of samsara, the law of karma. He will not get into the cycle of birth and death being dictated by karma. That is what it means. I take personal care of him. Yoga kshemam vahamyaham. I will provide what he lacks and I will protect what he has. Like
Okay, last question is, you mentioned cleansing on 2 levels, right? You know, one is on the level of the heart, and what was the other level that the cleansing occurred?
I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to recollect the context. I did mention that I guess what you're talking about is, even though there may be impurities in the heart, but still his heart is pure, something like that, right? Yeah, the last line. This means that even during the stage of having the tendency to commit sin, he has a pure heart. Is that what you're talking about? The last line, the third line.
Stage of having tendency to commit sin.
He still has a pure heart.
I'm not sure. I'll try to find it in the recording.
Okay, fine. Yeah. Okay, there is one more hand up. Shyam Chandra Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Dandot Pranam. So in this spirit of, seeing only Shraddha and more of Shraddha, and, so when we go to honor Prasadam in some devotee's house, who we know are not, their Svabhava is still not proper, because, it will take time. But the Shraddha seems to be good, like, enthusiasm, and then they're putting a lot of faith. So normally, when we think twice, before honoring Prasadam, because we feel that our consciousness, has over the years must have improved. So we don't want to lower it further by having Prasadam in houses where they are not following certain achars properly, So, this puts the whole thing under a different perspective now, because one may say that their Shraddha is good, Sabhava is okay, but then, like Prabhupada also honored Prasadam from his hippies disciples. So therefore, in this context of the whole discussion, how should we evaluate honoring Prasadam, from whom and on what circumstances?
Well, of course, we have to, when you have an option of one person who has a weaker Shraddha but a very clean Swabhava, and another person who has a very strong Shraddha, but he may not have but he may have a very strong Swabhava also. Then our choice, if these are the only two choices that we have to honor Prasadam, then we should certainly choose a person who has a stronger faith, even though his conditionings may be a little heavy. That should be our consideration. But otherwise, many times people say that that we will when we are traveling out, it is okay if some brahmanas they cook, that is perfectly fine. Well, yeah, if there is no other choice, we may have to choose that. But the brahmanas may be, in many cases, the brahmanas may be Shaivite brahmanas. So, and they may have a fairly clean Swabhava also. But still, if their faith is not pure, then we should always consider the purity of faith. We should give more weightage than the purity of Swabhava.
So,
but having said that, yeah.
Sorry, Prabhu, go ahead.
So the point is, what should we give weightage to? So I am not recommending that everyone keeps traveling and go to houses, and people with improper standards, you eat at their house. I'm not telling like that. So when we talk about, but we should certainly consider the Shraddha very strongly. That's the point.
So in this cooking, we say that fire is a medium, and through fire, the consciousness is traveling, and that is how it is entering
Correct.
into the prasadam, and then we get contaminated if the consciousness is not very pure. So what travels? Is it the Shraddha that goes, or is it Shraddha plus Svabhava both goes? Because if the Swabhava is also not good, then that can also go through the medium of fire, no?
Yeah, but Krishna is Bhavagrahi and Bhava is in a Shraddha. It
Okay.
goes through the fire and then it does not go through the fire and come to you. It goes through the fire to Krishna and comes to you. And Krishna accepts the Bhava. So I am not telling that does not mean that one who has so that is the point. So if that person who may have a very conditioned nature, but if he is very sincerely trying to serve Krishna, then Krishna considers that bhava very seriously.
Okay. Okay, Prabhu.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
very
Okay, so okay, there is another question here. So how will we know whether someone's Shraddha is weak or strong? Well, that you can know only by spending some time. There is no quick fix way of finding that out. So, yeah, there is no quick fix way of finding that out. Only by spending time with that person we can know. Okay. Yes, Keshav Priyamataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavad Pranam, Prabhuji.
Dandavad.
Prabhuji, my question is like, you're talking about exercising free will when we are totally only out of three modes. We can exercise free will. Sorry, our free will, no, Prabhuji. So what is
Yeah.
that we are exercising, Prabhuji? What is that you mean? Like at that stage, what free will we are applying and what are we exercising there? To choose which, in what way we can, like of the 9 process of chanting, devotional service, which one, it's only in there we can apply a free will, Prabhuji, to choose which process or what is it we are applying, Prabhuji, when we are out of
No,
modes?
that when our Shraddha is out of modes, then we choose prasadam over non-prasadam. You use a Vaishnava association over non-Vaishnava association. You use you choose like that. So that is exercising free will. But still,
And free will will be same for all devotees, no, Prabhuji. Like if you say
No.
this is the definition of exercising free will, then like at least for pure devotees,
this is basic.
like all.
This is basic. This is
Yes,
basic.
Prabhuji.
This is the like-mindedness or that is very basic. So then when one progresses, then someone likes Kirtan more, someone likes Shravanam more, then you associate with those people. So there I think, so even though one may in general choose only devotees association, that is based on one Shraddha, but within that there is scope for engagement according to one's Swabhava, which can be dovetailed in Krishna's service. Like say, for example, someone is committed to eating only prasad, but in prasad he likes potato sabji more than karela sabji or bitter gourd sabji. So there it is okay, because overall he has decided to follow his Shraddha, but within that there are certain aspects of Swabhava which can be dovetailed. So if you like a particular sabji more, if you like a particular limb of devotional service more, according to your past Swabhava, because it is dovetailable, it is accepted. So it's not that one should never act according to their Swabhava, but if that Swabhava can be dovetailed in Krishna's service, then engagement of that Swabhava is also can be facilitated within the realm of devotional service.
Then how the definition of free will can be exercised when one comes out of the influence of modes. Then you're talking about the influence of modes in pure Shraddha only, no, Prabhuji. Modes influence are there, no?
Yeah, so
What you,
here
the example.
when one is choosing potato over some other sabji, he is not exercising his free will. His exercising his free will comes in choosing prasadam over non-prasadam. But
It is for us,
when he
Prabhuji,
chooses,
beginners.
yeah,
What about pure
yeah.
devotees exercising free will? I really want to know what is that someone does by exercising free will. That is the point I'm
Oh,
asking.
pure devotees, when they see, uh, they can, when they taste the food, they can gauge the consciousness of the cook. So, so for them, the exercising, the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, if someone does not chant 64 rounds, I don't eat in their house. That was his standard. So they have, their choice, when it comes to, of course, he was doing it for setting the right example for others. So, I have heard from very senior devotees, they speak, in this way that when they eat the food, they can gauge the consciousness of the cook who has cooked it. So even though sometimes you may see extraordinarily cooked, uh, and you may really relish it, but they can actually check, the consciousness of the cook who has cooked it. So and it so like that, they may definitely make a choice as to that which has been cooked and offered with more love for Krishna. They may more eagerly accept if a choice is there. Then that prasad, which may be very deliciously cooked, but not with so much devotion and not offered with so much devotion, they may be able to make a differentiation and they may choose it that way, like that.
That means free will is like one can choose only whether they will take Krishna consciousness over the material activity. So
Correct.
Jiva's free
Correct.
will is not like it's only very the point I want to know is applying free will is just we can take Krishna consciousness. That's it. Is it not, Prabhuji?
Yeah. If if
Mm.
you are choosing Krishna consciousness over material activity, then you are exercising your free will. When a sadhaka
Oh.
is unable to choose Krishna consciousness over a material activity, he is unable to exercise his free will. A materialist is not even aware of his free will. He is just being, pulled by the puppeteer of Maya Devi through the three strings of Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. That's all.
It again brings to the point that the Jiva being Tadasha Shakti, it can choose either to stay in spiritual world or material world. So that is the only the free will you're mentioning here now, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, there is a comment in the chat box, very valid comment. To the extent he develops his eternal nature, to that extent he would exercise his free will. That is very correct, actually. To the extent he comes closer to developing his eternal nature, to that extent he will be able to exercise his free will. Yes. Okay. My goodness, already 1 hour gone. I didn't realize how fast the time is running. Time is my biggest enemy. What can I do? Okay, let's continue. So let's see some proofs from Shrimad Bhagavatam. I may have to skip some proofs because of the lack of time. So, in the beginning of sixth canto, this episode comes. I will just give a brief introduction to this episode. The beginning of sixth canto, at the end of fifth canto, Srila Shukadeva Goswami has described about the various kinds of hells, and how people experience various kinds of hellish punishments. And after hearing all that, Parikshit Maharaj feels very compassionate towards those suffering souls, asks very genuinely to Shukadeva Goswami, how can these people be helped? So, uh, Shukadeva Goswami says, just to test Parikshit Maharaj, he says, oh, Prayaschitta, There are, they suffer because they suffer, they go to hell and suffer because there is, because they have committed sinful activities and there are sinful reactions for that. And all the sinful reactions, one by one, can be rectified by performing karma kandiya prayaschitta. So there is different prayaschitta for different sinful reactions. So if the prayaschitta is performed, then they can escape. And Parikshit Maharaj is shocked. He says, he says that how can you say like this? He says, Drishta Shrutabhyam yat papam janan api atmano ahitam karoti bhuyo vivashah prayaschittam atokatam. So he says, even though the jiva knows, janan api, yat papam atmano ahitam, that sinful acts are very detrimental to one's own self. Drishta Shrutabhyam, he has seen it, he has heard about it from the Shastras, but karoti bhuyo vivashah, but still he helplessly commits those sins. Prayaschittam atokatam. What is the use of that kind of an atonement? Kvachin nivartate abhadrat, kvachit charati tat punah. Prayaschittam ato apartam manye kunjara shauchavat. Sometimes he may withdraw himself from sin, and after some time he is seen to commit the same sinful activities. The person who performs this prayaschitta. Ato, therefore, manye, in my opinion, prayaschittam apartam. This kind of karmakandi atonement is useless. Kunjara shauchavat. It is just like an elephant taking bath. He says this. So, Parikshit Maharaj outright rejects this path of karmakandiya prayaschitta, atonement. Then Shukadeva Goswami recommends the path of jnana, tapasa brahmacharyena, shamena cha, yamena cha, and so on. And Parikshit Maharaj rejects that also. And then he suggests the path of bhakti. Kechit kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayana, agham dunvanti katsnena niharameva bhaskara. So he suggests to him the path of bhakti. Kevala bhakti, uttama bhakti. Agham dhunvanti katsnena, it completely destroys the sin, like niharameva bhaskara. Just like a drop of dew, it completely vanishes when the sunlight falls on it, like that. And Parikshit Maharaj, interestingly, does not reject this option. When Prayaschitta was told, Parikshit Maharaj rejected, but he gave a reason for rejection also. What was the reason? Kvachin nivartate abhadra kvachit charati tatpunah. Prayaschittam ato apartam manye kunjara shauchavat. He said that sometimes such people they refrain from performing the full activities, and at other times they are seen to perform those sinful activities. So therefore, for that reason, this whole path of prayaschitta is like an elephant taking bath. Now, my question is, how many of you have seen these tendencies in devotees, in yourself or in other devotees, that sometimes you are able to say no to sinful activities, but at other times you may end up succumbing? How many of you have seen it in others or seen it in yourself? Only 3? Okay, more people are raising your hands, and some are typing in the chat box. Thank you. So now, if you have seen, then Parikshit Maharaj would have also seen, right? If you have seen, then Parikshit Maharaj would have also seen. Why did Parikshit Maharaj not reject the path of bhakti? Because he rejected the path of karma for the same reason. Oh, this prayaschitta and all is like elephant taking bath. These people do prayaschitta. Sometimes they refrain from sin, and at other times they commit the same activity. For that reason, I reject prayaschitta, he says. If you reject prayaschitta for that reason, then for that same reason, you should have rejected bhakti also. Why he does not reject bhakti? Why he does not reject the path of bhakti? This is my question to you. Anyone would like to answer this question? Someone says, because when one takes up to bhakti, the law of karma stops working. Okay, fine. Someone else says, Shipram Bhavati, he becomes very righteous. Quickly, he becomes very righteous. True. Anyone else would like to answer? Because it destroys the tendencies, because the Lord takes over. Mother Gail, your hand is still up. Would you like to answer this question?
Oh, I didn't realize my hand was still up, but yeah, I mean, I was just typing in the chat box that Parikshit knew that bhakti would uproot, these devotion, these material,
Tendencies.
tendencies. He knew that. So
Yeah, true. So, thank you. So, actually, Parikshit Maharaj, being a king, okay, he had access to his citizens, many of whom would have been on the, most of them statistically would have been on the platform of karma only. So in terms of opportunity to observe people on the platform of karma, there must statistically have been lot of opportunities who were on the path of karma and prayaschitta. And he himself being a devotee, and he had many close associates who were devotees. So he knew about the path of prayaschitta also, and he knew about the path of bhakti also. So these sinful inclinations seen in devotees, which try to pop up every now and then, Parikshit Maharaj knew that it would be destroyed gradually over a period of time. But Parikshit Maharaj also knew that the path of prayaschitta, even though it may destroy individual karma, but it is incapable of destroying the sinful inclinations. So in one of the sixth canto purports, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti makes this argument. He gives an open challenge to the Karmakandis. So the Karmakandis, they say that, oh, this is very nice. When we karmis, when we karma yogis, when we succumb to sinful activities, it is like elephant taking bath. But when you bhaktas, when you succumb to the same sinful activities, you say that it is like the biting of a snake with broken fangs. So you say that it has no reaction. It is like it has no reaction. It has no effect and all that. So we will also say that if people have taken up to the path of karma yoga, if they engage in kvachin nivartate abhadrat kvachit charati punaha, sometimes if they engage, it is also like a biting of a fangless snake, like that they will say. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says that, look, when we say that the path of bhakti, Shipram Bhavati Dharmatma, we are quoting from the Shastras. From the Bhakti Shastras, we may quote. So he says that you choose your best of your Karma Shastras, Dharma Shastras. You choose any Dharma Shastras of your choice and show one quotation where it is mentioned in that Dharma Shastra that performance of Karmakandya Prayaschitta destroys the desire to perform sinful activities. Show one, and I will keep my mouth shut. So he says, no, there is actually no statement like that. But there are so many such statements. The Shastras are filled with statements glorifying Bhakti as to how it destroys the tendency to commit sins. Right? So then in a few verses down the line, the Vishnu Dutas, they say, sorry, this is Shukadeva Goswami only who is telling to Parikshit Maharaj. Sakranmana Krishna Padara Bindayor Niveshitam Tad Gunaragi Yairiha Nateyamam Pasha Britascha Tad Bhatan swapnepi pashyanti hi chirna nishkritaha. So he says, persons sakrit manaha niveshitam. Persons who only absorb their mind once. Sakrit. Krishna Padaravindayoho, in the lotus feet of Krishna. Swapne api. Just in dreams. Not even in reality. Not even in reality. Even in dreams, if they may fix their mind in the lotus feet of Krishna. Antad gunaragi. Even though the mind may still have some material attraction, some anarthas are there. It is not even pure mind. It is an anartha-ridden mind that they are trying to fix in the lotus feet of Krishna. Not many times, but once. Not even while they were awake, but only in dreams. Even such people, na pashyanti, they do not see yamam pasha britas tadbatan, the servants of Yamaraj holding the noose of Yamaraj. Why? Chirna nishkritaha, because they have accomplished all atonement by that remembrance. So this is a long purport. I will just take the relevant part of the purport because we are running short of time, even though I would like to read the whole purport. So he says, if a devotee practicing pure bhakti, you see here, practicing pure bhakti happens to commit sin again, it is like the bite of snake without fangs. Okay. Those sins have no significant effect. That condition should not be compared to the elephant taking bath, which indicates a karmi who again commits sin. So this manye kunjara shauchavat, this elephant taking bath is not applicable to a devotee. But that does not mean the devotee can engage in sinful activities again and again. Then it will become the seventh offense and he will lose his bhakti. And then he quotes this verse, Apichet suduracharo bhajate mam ananyabha sadureva samantavya samyak vyavasito visa. Because Krishna says that the sudurachari tendencies, if they are seen in an ananyabhak devotee, then he should be considered a sadhu and Shipram Bhavati Dharmatma. Very soon he will become free of that. Okay, so this is a series of verses from Bhagavatam. Then another verse, of course, there are unlimited verses. We could then, we can go 10, 12, 13 sessions just discussing the proofs, but I know we don't have much time. So there is another verse. This is Vidura speaking to Maitreya. Okay, I will read the verse and read the translation. Hear it very carefully, and you have to give your purport. And let's see if your purport matches the Acharya's purports. Okay. Yascha mudatama loke, yascha buddhehe param gataha, tavu bhav sukam edete, klishyati antarito jana. So this is what Vidura is saying Maitreya. He says, Yascha mudatamo loke, he who is most foolish in this world, which means a materialistic person. Okay. And yascha gataha buddhehe param, and one who has attained the Lord beyond matter. So this is a perfected devotee. Ta ubhav sukha medete. Both of them increase their happiness. Both of them are very happy. Klishyati antarito jana. Antarito means those in between they suffer. So now my question is, who are the in between people and why do they suffer? And why these two categories of people? This is the first question. This is the second question. This is the third question is, why the two categories of people are happy? Okay. So these are the three questions that I'm asking you. Okay. So now my question is, who are the in-between people that is being mentioned here? Please answer the first question. Who are the in-between people? Okay, someone says faith is not steady, they suffer. What is the meaning of faith not steady? Do you mean mixed devotees, or do you mean practitioners of pure devotional service who have a weak faith? What is it that you're talking about? Okay, there are some answers. Having weak faith. Okay. Okay, let me read the answer. Someone says mixed devotee. Someone has says those whose faith is weak. Someone says sadhakas are practitioners of pure devotional path. Very good. Mixed devotees. They do not. Okay, this does not refer to mixed devotees. Okay, anyways, practitioners of bhakti are in between. Oh, so practitioners means sadhakas. Okay, someone says mixed devotees. Kalanidhi Prabhu says those who have no shraddha. So those who are no shraddha are the materialistic people who are mentioned here. You know, yascha modatamaloke. They are actually that category of people. Okay, struggling devotees are sadhakas. Yes, actually the in-between people are the struggling devotees who are sadhakas. Okay, those who shraddha is weak and swabhava is very strong. So he says there are two categories of people. Oh. So there are these people who are pure devotees, perfected devotees. Okay. And then the second category of devotees are materialists. Okay. So the perfected devotees are always happy. Why? Because their shraddha is pulling them up and their swabhava is also pulling them up. Their shraddha, what is right? Serving Krishna is right. What do you like? I like serving Krishna. What is right? Chanting the holy name is right. What do you like? I like chanting the holy names. What is right? Serving the Vaishnavas is right. What do you like? I love serving the Vaishnavas. So, here what he likes and what is recommended are both parallel. So they are happy. So there is no tug of war here. The materialists are happy. How? Because their Shraddha and Swabhava are also parallel. Okay. What do you like? I like sense gratification. What is good? What is your definition of good? Whatever makes you happy is good. Whatever makes you sad is bad. Don't do it. Have you ever heard people having this kind of value system? What you like, if you like it, you should do it. If you don't like it, you should not do it. What is good for you? If doing something makes you feel good, it is good for you. If doing something makes you feel bad, it is bad for you. Right? So have any one of you heard this kind of an argument? Yeah, right. Yeah, they will suffer reactions. Yeah, but they will suffer reactions later, but they will not attribute it to sort of, they will not have guilt. They may suffer, but they will not have guilt. So when we say that they will be happy, that does not mean that they will have the happiness of prema, but at least they will not suffer due to guilt. So why these intermediate people? These intermediate people are the sadhakas. So their sadhakas, their shraddha is paramgataha. This is their shraddha. Their shraddha is pulling them towards the lotus feet of Krishna. Okay. But their swabhava is pulling them towards sense gratification. Okay. So the unhappiness is the tension that exists in the sadhaka, the stress that exists in the sadhaka due to fighting his swabhava. That is what Klishyati, Antarito Jana, the in-between people, they suffer because of this dynamics, right? But actually, that does not mean a materialist is better than a sadhaka. So this suffering of this struggle between Shraddha and Swabhava is needed to transcend this low level of happiness to the higher level of bliss. Okay, so this is important. Because the happiness that is seen in a materialist, it is a very low level happiness, and the bliss seen in the perfected devotees is extraordinary bliss. So if you want to move from this level of very low level happiness to this extraordinary bliss, there is this struggle of Shraddha and Swabhav that is involved. This is essential struggle. But as and when one progresses, the struggle will become easier and easier and easier and easier. Like that. Yeah. Okay. So here, Srila Krishna Chakadagur commenting on this, he says, until now I have been drowning in the sorrow of doubt because of ignorance. This is expressed in this verse. One person who is the most foolish, like an animal, Mudatama, that is materialistic person, whose intelligence is engaged in enjoying material objects and ignoring the suffering. Okay. And another person who has achieved the Supreme Lord, who is beyond matter. These two persons increase happiness by deriving bliss from either material objects or the Lord without suffering. They ignore the suffering, you know. That is what gives them the enthusiasm to pursue the sense gratification again and again, more and more and more, because they somehow ignore the suffering. So, like that. So, he who desires to reject the material world by examining the suffering cannot accomplish this without attaining bhakti. He who is in between these two suffers in the ocean of doubt by not having either type of bliss. So this is the sadhaka. He has given up the material bliss because he is convinced. So he cannot guilt free. If you are walking from Chowpatty towards Grand Road, there is, in Mumbai, Chowpatty Temple to Grand Road, there is a cake shop, and the name of the cake shop is guilt free. That is the name, which means enter the shop and leave your guilt outside, right? Leave your guilt outside, just enjoy it, like that. So the sadhaka cannot enjoy material things at all, because without guilt he can enjoy, but guilt will eat him, and he is not able to, he cannot enjoy the bliss of prema also. So he keeps pulling himself hard. So that hard struggle is there for a while, but that hard struggle is a necessary struggle, because otherwise he will have to settle down for this lower grade pleasure only, like that. Anyways, there is this very interesting episode of Puranjan. So in this Puranjan's episode, of course, Puranjan is an allegorical story. And Puranjana, Puram means body, Jana means one who resides. So Puranjana literally refers to a conditioned soul. So it's an allegorical story. So this Puranjana is driving on a chariot. I am not going to go over this whole allegory of Puranjan's chariot. That will take a very long time. But I will give only some very few things. So in that Puranjan's chariot has 5 horses. Only 2 or 3 horses are seen here. So you can please imagine the other horses. Okay. So the 5 horses are the 5 senses. And Puranjan has a quiver. Quiver means a place where all the arrows are kept. Those are the past vasanas, impressions. So he uses the bow to shoot these quivers. So the senses pull him in one direction, and he has his quiver full of past vasanas, and the wheels of that chariot are, it has only two wheels, and the two wheels are the wheels of raga and dvesha. This is what it is described, raga and dvesha. And wherever the senses pull, the wheels are aligned. They go ragadvesha, 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 like that. Whereas, of course, this is, I just extended this analogy to a devotee, a sadhaka. A sadhaka's chariot is, he also has these five senses, which are the horses which are pulling him. He also has his quiver of impressions, but his two wheels have a separate mechanism. Okay, his two wheels are, they do not just blindly here to they can steer the chariot in a different direction, and the two wheels are made of anukul and pratikul, which is given by the shastras, shastriya shraddha. Okay, so the wheels, so the senses can pull in a direction, but the wheels can choose, the of a sadhaka can choose to move in a different direction or in the opposite direction. So but a Puranjan's chariot is, his wheels are made of raga and dvesha. So they helplessly go in the direction of the senses only. So even though a sadhaka also possesses the impressions and senses which may pull his chariot in a particular way, but a sadhaka endowed with shastriya shraddha, the wheels of his chariot can drive him in a different direction. But sometimes when the horses are very powerful, then the wheel gets pulled in that direction. But sometimes the steering system which steers these wheels is more powerful. The horses may just follow suit, like that. I mean, I just extended this allegory of Puranjan, which is a conditioned soul, to a devotee. Just okay. So we saw some proofs from Bhagavad Gita, some proofs from Srimad Bhagavatam. Let us see some proofs from the writings of the Acharyas, both the current Acharyas and the previous Acharyas. So I will read a paragraph from a book called Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani. This is a book written by His Holiness Shivram Swami Maharaj. Okay, you all know Shivram Swami Maharaj. So, and this book is based on the writings of the past Acharyas. Harinam Chintamani and Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, Madhurya Kadambini. So the book itself is based on all these books. It's a compilation, but presented in a very thematic, systematic way. He has presented it. In that book, he writes, I will read this slide. I want you to hear very carefully each and every line, and I want you to share your thoughts on what you feel. Okay. So it has just one slide, just 4 lines I'm going to read. Please hear them carefully. Maharaj writes, however, devotees who try their best to perfect their sadhana and to serve the mission, but who are handicapped by their own conditioned nature, can legitimately expect Krishna's kindness. Soft-hearted Krishna is sympathetic to the plight of his devotees in Kali Yuga. Thus, if for reasons other than their neglecting the process, they cannot complete their Krishna consciousness, they will certainly receive Lord Chaitanya's gift of love, and Srila Prabhupada's promise of deliverance will certainly be fulfilled. Therefore, devotees must practice the limbs of devotion, such as controlling the mind, studying the books, perfecting their japa, and remembering Krishna. 4 lines. I will give you some 20 seconds to read it again, and I want at least some of you to comment on this. So please read it and please share your comments. Either you can verbally share or you can type in the chat box, whatever makes you feel comfortable. Please go over it and then share your comments. You can either raise your hands and verbally share, or you can share it in the chat box. Anyone? Okay, Sureshwar Shyam Prabhu.
Prabhuji, this reminds me of this verse, Prabhu, Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter, 6th verse. One who restrains the sense of action, but whose mind's dense object certainly deludes himself.
Okay. So what is the connection with what Maharaj is writing here?
This Maharaj is writing the other way. They are dwelling, they are handicapped, but they are trying to depend on Krishna. So they expect
who is
from the Lord.
who are these people whom Maharaj is talking about?
Sadhakas.
Sadhakas, yeah. However, devotees who try their best to perfect their sadhana and to serve the mission, but they are handicapped by their own conditioned nature, the swabhava, right? Can legitimately expect Krishna's kindness. And that Krishna's kindness is what Krishna says, Shipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat shantim nigacchati kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. Okay, some of you are expressing your emotions. Someone says hope giving, someone says very, very inspiring and soothing words. True, but I'm asking for your understanding. Okay, so there is some more thoughts. Sadhaka can just surrender to the process and submit himself to Krishna. He will achieve success. Mother cat carrying the kitten. Oh, this is very nice. Correct. Another devotee says, very hope-giving statements for imperfect practice. No, no, no. This is not hope-giving for imperfect practice. It is hope-giving for proper practice, but with
Hare Krishna, will wait for a few minutes. Prabhuji got disconnected. He will mostly join back. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, welcome back.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, I'm sorry. Okay, they have some here where I'm staying. You know, here there is a beard Anyways, it's okay. So let me just share my screen. Okay. So anyways, I think we have got yeah, Kalani Prabhu says sadhaka should constantly try to perfect his sadhana and not be too engrossed in feeling guilty for the anarthas. Yeah, one should feel repentant, but at the same time, one should not become too sort of depressed. That's what it means. Yeah. Another point, sadhakas need to be sincere in their efforts to practice devotional service. Krishna will definitely help them. But any kind of negligence is not appreciated in the path of bhakti. Every sincere effort is counted, but any kind of negligence or excuse is not favored. Oh, very nicely written. Very, very good. Very good. Thank you. Okay, another point. It means that we have to sincerely follow the words of Acharyas and rest Krishna will take care. We need not get discouraged by some of our actions which might be influenced by Swabhava, as Krishna will definitely help his struggling devotees with a kind heart. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Very nice. Okay. Now in Madhurya Kadambini, of course, I will quickly go through this because we are running short of time. Okay. In Madhurya Kadambini, he talks, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti talks about 4 types of anarthas. So here we have to understand anarthas. He defines anarthas as unfavorable desires. Desires which are unfavorable for progressing on the path of devotional service. So he says 4 types of anarthas have been mentioned, namely those arising from previous sinful activity, those from previous pious activity, those from namaparad, and those from cultivation of bhakti. So they are called as previous sinful activity is called as dushkrutota anarthas. So if someone has had a past sinful upbringing, so those sinful impressions will actually push him to perform activities which are unfavorable for Krishna consciousness. So those are sinful desires born of unfavorable desires born out of past sinful life, and sukrutota anarthas. So sometimes we may have had very pious upbringing, but even pious upbringing may not be very favorable for Krishna consciousness. Sometimes, generally, pious impressions are actually doubtable in Krishna's service. Sometimes they are not. So I'll give an example. To cut the long story short, once, but actually my mother grew up in a Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. So there, the level of cleanliness and all is very, very pakka. No one eats anyone else's juta, or, touched by the saliva of someone else, so even I've never seen my mother or father eat even their children's juta or each other's juta at all. Never, never ever I have seen. This is taking from someone else's plate is not there because it is not good, right? So uchishtam api chamedyam ahar tamasapriya, Krishna says. He calls tamasic food, one of the things he says is uchishtam. But once my mother happened to get Mahaprasad of one of the senior sannyasis in ISKCON. Okay, very exalted devotee. So someone very eagerly came and gave, Mataji, this is Maharaj's Mahaprasad. And my mother asked, what do you mean Maharaj's Mahaprasad? She was little new to Krishna consciousness. And then she told, the person got shocked. He said, Maharaj Mahaprasad. And then, because she saw that what she brought had some, some half idli, some little bit of rice which was pre-mixed with some sambar-like thing or dal-like thing. And then it struck my mother. And she asked, you mean to say you have brought this from the plate of Maharaj? Is half-eaten things? And then said, yes, yes. And then my mother said, no thanks. Nothing doing, like that. So, but you see here, her practice of not accepting, juta or someone else's eaten remnants is very good. That is a very pious upbringing. In general, it is very good. But because that very same pious upbringing has become an obstacle here, you are not able to accept a very exalted devotee's remnants when they are said to be actually very, very potent in enhancing one's bhakti. Bhakta pada doliyara bhakta pada jal, bhakta bhukta avashesha tina mahabal. These three are like said to be the foot wash, the foot dust, and the food remnants of a Vaishnava are said to be extremely powerful in enhancing one's progress in the path of bhakti. But when someone has that pious upbringing, that can also sometimes become an anartha, right? And some aparadhotta anarthas, when we commit offenses, from those offenses also sometimes, or not sometimes, always, we develop sinful desires because of those offenses. And from proper cultivation of bhakti also, we may develop anarthas. These are called as bhaktiyotta anarthas, because when you properly practice bhakti, you will progress. When you progress, devotees will give you pujala, pratishtha, facilities and fame and glorification, and that may create some anarthas, right? So these are like 4 types of anarthas, and there are 5 grades of anartha nivritti. Anartha nivritti is gradual. One is called as Ekadesha Vartini, Bahudesha Vartini, Prayiki, Purna, and Atyantiki. He says 5 different stages. Ekadesha Vartini means only one of the anartha starts getting destroyed. Bahudesha Vartini means many anarthas start getting destroyed. Prayiki means almost all the anarthas get destroyed. And Purna means complete. All anarthas get completely destroyed. But for under some circumstances, they may return back. And Atyantiki means destroyed to such a level, they can never return back. Like that, there are 5 stages. Okay. So Ekadesha Vartini limited to one anartha, Bahudesha Vartini affecting many anarthas, Prayiki almost complete, Purna complete, and Atyantiki absolute. Now, if you see these 4 kinds of anarthas, Dushkritotta, Sukritotta, Bhaktiyotta, and Aparadhotta anarthas, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti in his Madhurya Kadambini, he says, when one practices bhajana kriya, before even one reaches nishta, during the stage of bhajana kriya and anartha nivritti, actually, the Dushkritotta, Sukritotta, and Bhaktiyotta anarthas reach the stage of Prayiki. Prayiki anartha nivritti happens. Nashtat prayeshu or abhadreshu. Prayiki means almost gone. Due to your past unfavorable desires, due to your past sinful life, unfavorable desires due to your past pious life, and unfavorable desires due to puja la pratishtha is almost gone by the time you are nearing the end of your bhajana kriya. When you reach nishta, they are completely gone. When you reach nishta, these 3 types of anarthas are completely gone. At the stage of nishta, there is no influence of past bad habits. There is no influence of unfavorable past pious life also. And there is one is not affected by name, fame, glorification, etc. And when one reaches the stage of asakti, at the stage of asakti, this dushkrutota and sukrutota anarthas are gone to such an extent that they can never come back. And at the stage of ruchi only, this pujala pratishtha desires for them will go back to such an extent that it can never return back. But these aparadhotta anarthas are very dangerous. They are very dangerous because At the stage of Bhajana Kriya, only some of these aparadot anarthas go away. Then at the stage of Nishta, a few more go away. And only at the stage of Bhava, they are almost gone. And at the stage of Prema, only it is completely gone. And when one becomes a personal associate, then it is gone to such a level that it cannot return back like that. So the point is that the Swabhava Shuddhikaran, the purification of Swabhava is gradual only, and as long as the Swabhava remains impure and the Shraddha remains pure, this tug of war will continue, mostly at least till Nishtha it will continue. At the stage of Nishtha, you will almost see no struggle. But only when one reaches Prema, it is completely gone. Even the Aparadotana is gone. And then we also saw, this Utsahamai, Ganatarla, Vyuda Vikalpa, Vishesangara, Niyamakshama, Tarangarani, these kind of various kinds of sort of the various types of firefighting or fighting between this Swabhava and the Shraddha, which takes on different flavors that we saw. So all these things, actually, I did present it, but internally I was not satisfied. Because even though I have quoted Bhagavad Gita, I have quoted Bhagavatam, but still I have just pieced together informations and purports from verses and purports from different places. But there is no one place where this concept is as it is explained, as we have seen till now. Okay. Then about 2 or 3 years back, we were studying Jaiva Dharma. Jaiva Dharma by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And by then I had actually spoken about this Shraddha Swabhava dynamics many times. But still internally I was not happy, because at one place, very clearly these kind of, this explanation I could not find. So I was still not very satisfied. I thought if I get I need little more concrete proof for this. And one fine day, every day afternoon, we used to have our discussions. One fine day, we were sitting and discussing the 6th chapter. And when we started reading from Jaiva Dharma, literally, we were looking at each other with open mouth. We were shocked. We were shocked, literally. Because practically, whatever we had been discussing, because this whole Shraddha Swabhav thing, this discussion, this developed, this understanding developed at GV when we were during our regular discussions, daily discussions. And when this came up, when we were reading Jaiva Dharma, literally, people were shocked. Their mouth opened. And I literally had, I'm not exaggerating, hairs on my body stood up. Okay. And you will understand why. And I felt so relieved. I felt so literally vindicated. I thought, thank you, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It was such a moment, and you will understand why. We will read. You all know Jaiva Dharma is a novel. So there is a conversation that is happening between one Vaishnava and another. He's a Nyayika. He's a Nyaya philosopher. So there is this conversation that is happening between the two of them. I'm going to read it, just hear it carefully. So this Tarka Chudamani, that is his name. He's a logician. So he is asking, I'm just reading from the middle of it. He's asking, what is Tatvika Shraddha? So what we are discussing as what we are calling as Shraddha, he calls it as Tatvika Shraddha. Okay. What is this Tatvika Shraddha? So Vaishnav Das Babaji Maharaj answers him. He says, simple, guileless faith in the Supreme Lord, and consequently, sincere bhakti rendered to him is known as Tatvika Shraddha. A sincere candidate is given eligibility to perform bhakti by his Tatvika Shraddha, which means eligibility to perform bhakti is this Shraddha. And what is Shraddha? Simple, guileless faith in the Supreme Lord, and consequently in the process of bhakti. This is Satvika Shraddha. Chudamani asks this question. Some persons have developed faith in the Shastras, but they lack a noble nature. Are they fit candidates for bhakti? The same question, right? They lack a noble nature means they have a conditioned swabhava. Okay. Are they fit candidates for bhakti? Vaishnav Das Babaji Maharaj says, once pure, once type by nature, that is swabhava. So here you see, he uses the word Shraddha and then he uses the word swabhava in the exact same way that we use. Just give me 1 second. Just give me 1 second. Oh. Okay. So he says, once type by nature, that is swabhava, is definitely not applicable to the eligibility to perform bhakti. You see here, uses the word swabhava, which is solely dependent upon Tatvika Shraddha. Okay. So this we know, right? So he says, swabhava is not a disqualification. It depends on Tatvika Shraddha. And now you see what are the verses that he is quoting to substantiate it. Jata Shraddho Matkatasu, Nirvinna Sarva Karmasu, Veda Dukkatmakam Kaman Parityagya Pyanishwaraha. So you remember the definition of classic definition of Vaidhi Sadhaka that we saw? The same definition, the same thing that he says. So he quotes this to establish this point. You see, Veda Dukkatmakam Kaman, his faith says that understanding that his faith says that sense gratification leads to misery, but still, Parityagya Pyanishwaraha, he is still not able to give up sense gratification because of his contaminated swabhava. And Krishna says, please continue to worship me. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is quoting this verse to say that contaminated swabhava is not a disqualification to practice bhakti. And then of course he quotes the next verse also in that, Proktena bhakti yogena vajato masakrit munehe kama hridaya nashyanti sarve mai hridi sthite. The Lord says, when an intelligent person engages constantly in worshipping me through loving devotional service as described by me, his heart quickly becomes firmly situated in me. Thus all material desires within the heart are destroyed. Shipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat shantim nigacchati kaunteya pratijanehi name bhakti. So Chudamani says, what if I do not accept the authority of Srimad Bhagavatam? He says, you people keep quoting Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavatam, Bhagavatam. What if I don't accept Bhagavatam? So Vaishnav Das Babaji Maharaj says, we have simply presented the conclusion of all the Shastras. Shastra is one. Even if you do not accept the Bhagavatam, then the other scriptures will harass you with the same conclusion. He says, okay, you may not accept Bhagavatam. We are not presenting Bhagavatam's conclusion. This is the conclusion of all the scriptures. Even if you do not accept the conclusions of Bhagavatam, the other scriptures will also harass you with the same conclusion. So he says, we do not need to refer to many Shastras simply consider what the Gita, a universally honored text, has to say. He says, let me quote from Gita. And guess what verses he quotes from Gita? He quotes Apichet Suduracharo, Shipram Bhavati Dharmatma, the same verses that we had. And then he quotes Mamhi Partha Vipashita. The next verse also he quotes Epistu Papayone, Priyo Vaishya Tata Shudra Tepiyanti Paramgatim. So whatever may be the level of conditioning, so one can take up to bhakti. So literally, I mean, practically whatever verses we have seen, actually the first part till before Jaiva Dharma, we had, this part, that part of my presentation was already done, but I was still not very happy. But when I read this section from Jaiva Dharma, literally it was, I mean, I cannot explain, literally how I felt. Literally, I could see hair standing on my head, So, because he's quoting exactly the same verses, he's using the same terminologies of Shraddha and Swabhava to make exactly the same point. So he says, the purport of this is that a devotee who engages in bhakti, hearing topics of Krishna consciousness, chanting Harinam, singing his glories with Ananya Bhak, single-mindedness, even if he is addicted to many abominable illicit activities which go against the scriptural injunctions, he must be considered a sadhu because he is on the righteous path being situated in devotional service. Righteous path means he will become very quickly, he becomes righteous. Shipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat shantim nidasthiti. Like that. So now, uh, coming to this point that, so this is from Jaiva Dharma. So we see that there are various connotations of the word purity in the Shastras. When we say, are you a pure devotee? Are you a pure devotee? There is no straightforward yes or straightforward no. Okay. Let us see some examples. Okay. I will ask you, you have to answer. There are 3 propositions I am giving here. Okay. You have to answer me. When we say, for example, Jaya and Vijaya are pure devotees, but the 4 Kumaras are not pure devotees. Here, what does the word pure refer to? What does purity refer to here? I want you to think and answer. Jaya and Vijaya are pure devotees, but the 4 Kumaras are not pure devotees. What does the word pure refer here? Okay, Shyam Chandra Prabhu says Shraddha. Puja Mataji says Shraddha. Kalangi Prabhu says pure Shraddha. Srikant Prabhu says Shraddha. And you're all of you are perfectly right. So Jaya and Vijaya were pure devotees, they had pure Shraddha, whereas the 4 Kumaras were Jnana Shraddhas. Their Shraddha was mixed with Jnana. Perfect. So someone says that my audio is not clear. Okay, just give me 1 second. Is my voice better now? Okay, now can you hear? Okay, thank you. So, perfect. You all are right. So now, my next question. Rupa Goswami is a pure devotee, but I am not. What does the word pure refer to here? Rupa Goswami is a pure devotee, but I am not. Why am I not a pure devotee? Why am I not a pure devotee? Yeah. So here purity refers to he has purity of Shraddha and Swabhava. So Rupa Goswami has purity of Shraddha and Swabhava. But I may have pure Shraddha, but I have not, because I have not reached the stage of Prema, Anarthas are still there. So my Swabhava is impure. Okay. Now, the third proposition. Sridama is a pure devotee, but Arjuna is not. What does the word pure here refers to? Or why is Arjuna impure? What is that impurity in Arjuna? What is that impurity in Arjuna? What is that impurity in Arjuna that is not there in Sridama? Yes, correct. Awe and reverence. Awe and reverence is the impurity. So, therefore, the word pure is used in many connotations. Pure can refer to, oh, he is a pure devotee, means Jay and Vijay are pure devotees. The four Kumaras are not pure in the sense they were four Kumaras are mixed devotees. Their Shraddha is mixed. Someone says, oh, but Rupa Goswami, Prabhupada is a pure devotee, Rupa Goswami is a pure devotee. I am not a pure devotee means my Swabhava is not yet purified. That's there. Purity refers to, that impurity refers to impurity of Swabhava. And when the Shastras say, oh, Sridama is a pure devotee, whereas Arjuna is not, there that impurity is the impurity of rasa on reverence, right? So this purity on the level of rasa, Chaitanya Charitamrita, you see, they say, this is Adi Leela. Saka Shuddha Sakye Kare Skande Arohan, Tomi Kona Badalo Ka Tomi Yami Sama. So Krishna says this. In Vrindavan, my sakas just climb on my shoulder. And they say, and he says that they have Shuddha Sakya Rasa. I mean, is there something called Ashuddha Sakya Rasa? Because Rasa itself has to be at the level of complete purity only. So what is a Shuddha Sakya Rasa? Shuddha means it has no impurity of awe and reverence. So they climb on my shoulders and they say, Tumi kon bada loka, Tumi yami sama. What kind of a big man are you? You and I are equal. They say like that. Okay. Ye Shuddha Bhaktalaya Karimu Avatar, Kariba Vivida Vida Adbhuta Vihar. Vaikunta Dhyena Hiya Lilara Prachar, Sese Lila Karibaya Te Mora Chamatkar. He says, Ye Shuddha Bhaktalaya Karimu Avatar. Taking these pure devotees with me, I shall descend. And I shall sport in various wonderful ways, unknown even in Vaikunta. Vaikunta nahi ye Leela Prachar. Sese Leela Karibayate Mora Chamatkar. I shall broadcast such pastimes by which even I am amazed sometimes. Then he says, Vrajera Nirmala Raga Shuni Bhagwan Raga Marge Baje Yena Chadi Dharma Karma. So he says, Vrajera Nirmala Raga. Nirmala. Mala means contamination. Nirmala means without contamination. Raga means attachment. So the attachment of the Vrajavasis towards Krishna is Nirmala. Does it mean that the attachment of Dwarakavasis towards Krishna is filled with contaminations? Does it what it means? No. So so here that impurity is the impurity of awe and reverence. So therefore, one who hears about this Nirmala Raga, about the pure love of the residents of Braja, what they will do? Bhakta Gana Ragamarge Bhaja. They will accept the path of Raganuga Bhakti, which is following in the footsteps of the Vrajavasis, and Yena Chadi Dharma Karma. And by that they will abandon all kinds of religiosity, fruitive activity, and will do Jnana Karma Dhyanavrita Bhakti. And then he says, Aishwarya Jnanete Sabha Jagata Mishrita Aishwarya Shitila Preme Nahi Mora Prita. So he says, Sabha Jagata Mishrita. All the universe is filled with Aishwarya Jnanete, with the conception of my majesty. But Aishwarya Shitila Preme Nahi Mora Prita. Krishna says, but that love which is weakened by the sense of majesty does not satisfy me. Like that he says. So therefore the word purity is many times used in terms of purity of that rasa also, in terms of the impurity is the impurity of on reverence. So even in the prayers by Queen Kunti, Kunti Maharani says, Gopyadadet Vaikritagasi Damatavat Yate Dashashru Kalilanjana Sambramaksham Vaktram Niniya Baya Bhavanaya Stitasya Samam Vimoheti Bhirapiyat Bibeti. Kunti Maharani says, when I see Krishna running in fear of Mother Yashoda, and this Krishna is actually fear personified, is afraid of this Krishna. This bewilders me because she knows that Krishna's fear of Mother Yashoda is real. She also knows that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and seeing him fear personified gets afraid. So therefore, she is bewildered. I can't understand how these two can coexist. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada beautifully writes. Prabhupada says, the Supreme Lord also accepts the loving service of his devotees more relishably when the service is rendered spontaneously out of pure affection without anything of reverential admiration. Generally, the Lord is worshipped by the devotees in a reverential attitude, but the Lord is meticulously pleased when the devotee, out of pure affection and love, considers the Lord to be less important than him. But he thinks like that because of pure affection and love. The Lord's pastimes in the original abode of Goloka Vrindavan are exchanged in that spirit. The Lord, in his naturally childish, playful activities, used to spoil the stock butter of Mother Yashoda by breaking the pots and distributing the contents to his friends and playmates, including the celebrated monkeys of Vrindavan, who took advantage of the Lord's munificence. Mother Yashoda saw this, and out of her pure love, she wanted to make a show of punishment for her transcendental child. He is feared often by the fear personified, yet he is afraid of his mother, who wanted to punish him just in an ordinary manner. Kunti was conscious of the exalted position of Krishna, whereas Yashoda was not. Therefore, Yashoda's position was more exalted than Kunti's. Like that. So Prabhupada also says. So in this way, the word purity many times refers to multiple things, right? So purity refers to purity of Shraddha. When purity refers to purity of Shraddha, then we are comparing pure devotees and mixed devotees. Okay. When purity refers to Swabhava, then we are talking about pure devotees and sadhakas. When purity refers to rasa, then we are talking about Vrajavasis, perfected Vrajavasis and perfected non-Vrajavasis. So in the Shastras, the word purity is used in multiple contexts. Anyways, so now the class is over. Okay. Now the course is over, but I am going to examine you. So this is examination time now. So please be ready for the examination. You will be evaluated. Of course, no certificate will be given, but it is evaluation time. And this evaluation is going to take a few seconds only. Okay. So whether you have understood the whole thing or not will become very clear now. I am going to read a paragraph from Srila Shivaran Swami Maharaj's Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani. I'm going to ask you a question, and it's a one-word answer. That one-word answer will, please don't try to answer it in more than one word. You have to answer it in one word, and I want to hear it. So that is the examination. Okay. Maharaj says, please hear very carefully. The two major challenges that ISKCON faces in fulfilling its preaching mission. He says there are two major challenges that ISKCON faces in fulfilling its preaching mission. What are the two major challenges? To transform non-devotees and mixed devotees into pure devotees. This is one challenge. And to transform pure devotees into perfect devotees. So there are 4 kinds of devotees mentioned here, not 4 kinds of people. One is non-devotees. Okay. Second is mixed devotees. Third is pure devotees. Fourth is perfect devotees. Okay. Now my question to you is based on whatever we discussed in the last 4 sessions. Please take your time and tell me of these 4 categories, which category do you fall? Now, are you non-devotees? Are you a non-devotee or a mixed devotee or a pure devotee or a perfect devotee? Please think about it and answer. Don't rush to answer. Think about it and answer. Wow, what audacity. Every one of you says that you are a pure devotee. You know, what kind of audacity you have, right? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so, okay. So in conclusion, so this is the penultimate, this is the last slide. So practicing pure devotee, but that was not in choice. You have to fit with the choice, right? Okay, so in conclusion, please hear this carefully. Nitya Siddhas like Rupa Goswami, they have pure Shraddha and pure Swabhava. Sadhana Siddhas like Narada Muni have pure Shraddha and purified Swabhava. Sadhakas like us, we have pure Shraddha and purifying Swabhava. Whereas mixed devotees have impure Shraddha. So therefore, like that. So Hare Krishna. So thank you all very much. This is something which I thought would be relevant. So now I had in the beginning only told that I will take extra time. So the session is not over. Please don't drop out. We will take some questions little later. But before taking questions, if there are any comments which anyone would like to share, or if you would like to share what you learned from the course or something that you liked about the course or something that you did not like about the course, something. So let us take some time to please hear your feedback. What you have, the feedback could be what you have learned. The feedback could be what you did not like. The feedback could be what you like. Anything. So the next, few minutes, we will just hear from you. So I would appreciate if you can share either in the chat bar, if you can verbally share by raising your hands. I would like to know what you have understood, whether you have understood, what you have understood, and whether it made sense or not. So I would like to hear from you. Yes, Shyam Chandra Prabhu.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Dandot Pranam.
Dandot Prabhu.
First of all, my wholehearted thanks to you for conducting this course, because it completely gave a new perspective on Bhakti. And I feel like a transformed person. Even though I was not there in the first 2 sessions directly, I heard your class later. But for 3rd and 4th session, I was there directly when you were live. But what I really liked was, the complete understanding, was clear. That is, important thing is I understood about what is the real free will, because I had a different understanding of free will. I thought everything, any choice that one makes is free will, but now it's very clear that only if it is following the Shastras or scriptures, it is free will.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it is not. And the other thing is, we are not mixed devotees, but we are pure
Mhm.
devotees because our Shraddha is pure. We have
Mhm.
got complete faith in the understanding of Guru and in the bona fide parampara of serving Sri Guru. So that means our Shraddha is pure. So therefore, we are pure devotees, and our sadhana, our swabhava is getting purified day by day, minute by minute, and every second. So I really enjoyed, and also the references that you very nicely brought about from the scriptures, Bhagavad Gita. I mean, we know these verses, but we never dissected them or analyzed them to such a level that you could very nicely bring out what part component of that verse is Shraddha, what component of that verse is Svabhava. And all these years, I had understood Rupa Goswami's Anyabhilash Shunyam in a different way. Now the entire perspective is a much more, clear. So I think that's all I wanted to say. And I feel blessed to be part of this group and to hear from you. And if
Thank
I've
you,
got
Prabhu.
any doubts, something coming up, I'll directly message you also, so that
Yes,
I can
Prabhu.
get more and more clear. I hope that is fine with you.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Yes, yes, yes.
And Prabhu,
Thank
can
you.
I
Thank
comment
you
on
very
this
much.
Arjuna versus Sridhama here, or shall I do it later?
Later, Prabhu. First, we will hear the feedback, and then we will definitely take that. Yes.
Okay, Prabhu.
Thank you. Ramangi Radhika Mataji.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Danvat Pranam. Thank you,
Dandavat
Prabhuji.
Mataji.
Thank you. Heartfelt thanks to you to take up this sessions, and that too on a free basis. We are so grateful, Prabhuji. You're trying to reach out this tattva to all of us struggling devotees. Prabhuji, recently I was pursuing Bhakti Shastri. Then I asked my teacher, Prabhuji, don't just give Prabhupada's version alone. Please tell us what is real Karma Yoga and what is Jnana Yoga, and what is the difference between Bhakti Yoga and the other yogas. Because our Srila Prabhupada's version is all about Bhakti only, and we really appreciate it. But when we preach to beginners, we don't have really what is Karma Yoga, what is Jnana Yoga. We only know about Bhakti Yoga. So I just asked our teacher, then he started Srikant Krishna Prabhuji from Chowpatty. He started giving us this understanding of Nishkam Karma Yoga and all that. So I could see that your classes were the actual basis for this understanding. So I was searching for your classes, and somehow I came to Japa Sangha group, and then you gave us the other groups to join, and then Jaiva Dharma, and this special session, Is Your Bhakti Pure? Really wonderful, Prabhuji. I used to think, even in my long answer question in Bhagavad Gita, I just gave like, I'm a mixed devotee, I'm attached to few karma, few activities still, so I feel like I'm a mixed devotee. Something I just wrote. Then after hearing to these, really this Shastra Chakshu is really needed for ISKCON devotees or practitioners, Prabhuji. Some of us have these misunderstandings, and this is really needed. We are wasting time on what aspects we have to focus on to really progress on bhakti. So this is really greatly helpful for our all of our struggling devotees, Prabhuji. And I also used to feel like, why only bhakti, it is said, Aneha Bikaman Asosti, why only bhakti, only practitioners of bhakti, Krishna gives protection? Why it is said like that? Why Srila Prabhupada is saying that? Even yoga brashtas are getting Srimatam Gehe, and those lokas are there. Why is it only for it is said? These were there in my heart. Why only bhakti is projected? Other yogas are also being protected by the Lord. Then I asked you this question in group. You explain they'll be handled in a different way, but for devotees devotees, it is directly from Krishna. The protection comes from Krishna. Case verses, Kshipram Bhavati Dharmatma, all these are Krishna's direct supervision. So these kind of understandings really enhance our Shraddha. It really is hope-giving, Prabhuji. We should be really sincere. That's true. And we have also strong swabhavas. We means me, especially. So very, I cannot express my gratitude, Prabhuji. You all people are doing wonderful job for all people like me. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Madam.
Dandavad.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you. There are some devotees who have shared what they have learned in the chat box also. I'll just read. Main lessons learned, Shyam Vallavi Mataji says, I should not judge the devotees. And second, those who have Shraddha are pure devotees, are pure practitioners, you can say. Yes, pure practitioners. Practitioners of pure devotional service. Thank you. This is very crystallized understanding of the course. Thank you very much. Okay, there is another point. For everything you have taught these 4 sessions. Okay. And really these sessions also taught me why reading Shastras and forums like this are important to make us realize the real meaning of Bhakti and its stages, and also to evaluate our sadhana and where we fall and how much scope is there for improvement. It is really helpful for our progress in Bhakti. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, there is more. My takeaway from it is do not lose hope. Yes, that is the point actually. You are on the right path. Work on your unfavorable aspect of Swabhava. Krishna is waiting eagerly for you. Thank you very much. This is very wonderful summary. This is very nice summary. Thank you. Okay. Learnings. It gave more assurance to continue Bhakti process even though dragged with anarthas. Sometimes I wonder, am I really doing Bhakti when I have so many conditionings? This session gave me more assurance that Krishna is watching me. And especially today's session is the summon substance. Thank you very much. Okay. Course brings clarity about concepts. The participatory methodology tingled the thought process and makes it fun. Yeah. So yeah, that is very important actually. When devotees participate, they have to think about it. So without thinking, and these kind of courses, you have to be thoughtful. Kalanidhi Prabhu says, what remained a confused understanding of my status as a devotee and my spiritual future for decades has become clarified. Yet it will take time for me to fully digest this explosive knowledge and to put my own Shraddha and Swabhava in the respective slots and deal accordingly. Yes, Prabhu, as you said, decades. So definitely you can take as much time as you want to thoughtfully ponder over these things. And if any one of you find that you don't agree with certain things, we can always discuss about it. I'm open to discussion. I have changed, many of my understandings have changed over a period of time. So I am very much willing to change my understanding. So please feel free to share your thoughts. Okay. Okay. Yes. Thank you very much. And there is okay something else also. Yeah, Preeti Vilasini Mataji says, it was interesting to learn the real meaning of Shraddha, pure devotion, and who pure devotees are, and I understood the concepts like free will, anarthas, etc. so nicely clarified. The entire course is so hope-giving. Thanks for making it interactive, and hence we were able to think through it. Yeah, this is very important because if we don't think through it, so there are 2 ways of making the students. I would not say students because I consider myself also a student here. There are 2 ways of making the other participants thoughtful. One is you either allow them to question you, or you ask them a question and expect an answer from you. These are the 2 ways. For both of these things, they have to be thoughtful. They cannot thoughtlessly ask a question. Okay, they have to really think through it and ask you a question. or if you ask them a question without thinking, they cannot give an answer, right? So, so this I found very important in any session. Somehow there must be some means of, you know, keeping people little thoughtful. But thank you very much. Okay, any final quick questions, comments? I will take 5 minutes more, not more than that. If there are any final comments, questions, anything anyone would like to share as had, we, in 5 minutes we will take. Okay, if there is none, then we will stop here. Thank you all very much. It was really very wonderful time spent with all of you. And I really wish to express my gratitude. You all took your very valuable time. Weekend times are the only time that you get to spend with your family and other such things, but still you took time out to attend this. I really feel grateful that you gave your association. So thank you very much. And hopefully in future also we will get to spend time together discussing Krishna Katha. I am very eagerly looking forward for that. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.